Woohoo!
Oh my God, my microphone's falling off. The last 24 hours with you, leaving Sydney, going to Brisbane. Hold on, I do have to preempt with, I had food poisoning the night before.
Yes.
So I hadn't slept for about, I don't know, I think I slept for an hour and a half. And I'm saying to Nicola, I said, I don't think I can make that early morning flight. And you go, okay, because she's so cool. And she goes, right, we'll go sort of like 1 o'clock. And because we're heading up to Brisbane to see Oprah. So I'm like, I get to the airport like that. And the next minute, see Nicola, and we've got the giggles.
It's just so
and we didn't stop for 24
fun.
hours.
And I was just, so Di then sort of filled herself up with, like electrolytes and liquid
Everything.
OV and the whole thing.
Everything.
But
not
you know
a champagne in sight.
And then so poor Di isn't feeling the best, but it was quite funny because she had to sort of like stop off at the chemist and get some supplies and the whole thing. And I can't stop giggling and laughing. And then even though I've got empathy, I still think it's sort of quite funny. I thought there's not a way in the world we are going to miss Oprah Winfrey.
No.
We had meet and greet
Yeah.
tickets. We were getting a photo with Oprah. And you know what? We laughed and how healthy it is. And, sick or not sick. Anyhow, the best news of all is...
The best news.
Best news of all. Guess what, guys? Breaking news. Oprah Winfrey is coming on our podcast.
With Gail.
Gail as well.
Because we're girlfriends with girlfriends.
And this will be an Australian exclusive. And I was
yeah.
just saying, I mean, how exciting was it, Di, when we met her together?
Yeah, just, look,
Share that moment.
But you know how I'm an energy person. I feel people's energy before they even speak. Sometimes their energy is so bad I don't want them to. I'm only joking. But I must be honest that, there's so much there's so many spokes in her wheel. But I thought, okay, I'm going to go in and feel her energy. And as you know, I wasn't well. And it was almost like she almost made me shake, and because I wasn't nervous one bit, but just with her energy, it was vibrating at such a higher level. I could sense, and which I thought was really beautiful, because I didn't need to see, feel, hear, know how famous she was. That feeling was there, and that was very comforting for me. Someone at that level in life that we all, she's revered, that is very, very grounded yet so enlightened. She's an enlightened being. That's what I felt.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, you know what? I absolutely concur with that. And, I have met Oprah. This was my 8th time. So, look, yes, I have been a bit of an Oprah nut. But I followed
That's
her.
the understatement.
Yeah, and I have followed Oprah since 1986 when I flew for the airlines. And before she was actually out in Australian TV. And I saw her and I used to watch her in America. And I loved it because she talked about taboo subjects and different things that you could talk about. And I just straight away her warmth, and I just thought she's great. So followed her all the way through. So over the years, I have seen her. I manifested a ticket in 2010. I saw her again in 15 years ago, and then in San Jose and UCLA, and went on an Alaska cruise with Oprah and Gail. And it was so funny because afterwards then, and that was sort of like my marriage had fallen over, 25-year marriage, and it happened to be going on this Oprah cruise. So I extended my holiday after that, go figure, Alaska to Mykonos in Greece.
Well, you were meeting me there.
And that's what I was meeting my buddies. Nothing like friendships. I was saying, Nicola, come on, extend your trip. So I did. So here I am in Greece. Who do I bump into is Gail,
but the best
Oprah's
story,
best friend. Okay, all right. She's going to share this one.
She's left a bit out. She's staying at the bloody cheap hotel across the road. And
I was going to miss that
and
part
she
out,
assumed because the main the big hotel on the water, it was like a sister hotel, but she was at the cheapy one. She went, oh, how lovely, very lovely, a gorgeous pool, big, beautiful, love the chaise lounge, gorgeous umbrellas. Well, I'll stay here every day around the pool. Well, it had nothing to do with the cheapy one across the road.
Because they'd said to me,
she just assumed. And then the guy goes, she said, I'll have that cocktail thing. What room number? I'm 7973971420 whatever.
To Gail.
And he goes, oh, there's no room number. Really? That's strange. And meantime, back at the ranch,
Day 5.
Gail's next to her on a shade lounge, and they figured out that she's not in 259733 room, and you start chatting to Gail.
Well, it was fun because then Gail did we sort of knew one another from the cruise. But look, the best thing in a nutshell there was, look, I had lots of talks over the years, but my favourite one was a friendship talk, and it was nothing like two friends, genuine friends for like say 40 plus years. And I said to Gail,
that's us.
I loved all the talks. I said, but my favourite one actually was with you and Oprah talking and their girlfriends talking, and Gail's going, oh my God, she said, let's ring up Oprah right now. And I said, okay. So in the swimsuit there, so she picks up the phone.
With a pina colada.
Yeah, FaceTime, and I'm actually staying at the wrong place, but
Probably
I didn't stay there.
Probably charged to Gail's room.
And then next minute, so we're FaceTiming Oprah. And she's
beautiful.
going, Oprah, here's Nicola. She was on the Alaska cruise to, say what happened.
Can you believe this? It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
So last night or the night before, we were actually in Brisbane. That's when we said hello, and Di hadn't met her.
And we went together. Because I'm sick as a dog with a headache.
And then I shared the story with Oprah, and I just said to her, I said, hey, I've seen you all these times. We actually share a back fence. And I said, about the Gail and about friendship. And I said, remember, I said, she FaceTimed. Now, I didn't think Oprah would remember.
She was jumping up. Going,
I got you got a car moment to us.
And I was like, where's the car?
I remember that. And
my headache went.
High five, like jumping up and down.
Yeah,
like we're all like, yay. And then I said,
my
really want you on our podcast. Because I said, we're like friends. And I said, in America, people say that we're the Oprah and Gail. And she said, I'm going to make that happen.
We're going to do it.
Yeah. And so the assistant came
people.
over and got our details. So 2026, guys.
Bring it on, baby. Bring it on.
So there's nothing like
it's crazy.
Friendship, laughter, and the things you do.
But the Uber going from that event to on our way home to this very strange motel. I'm not kidding you. I'm going, my head, it's going to burst. Oh, my God. Because, I'd been vomiting all night and I was very dehydrated.
TMI,
and I don't get headaches, so I couldn't do it. So in the back of this Uber, this guy's going, gee, these people. Nick is going, I'm so excited.
This one's
coming on the
pulling her hair out.
My head. Get me to McDonald's. I've got to eat something. So we're lining up for a McDonald's, going, get me a vanilla shake. I never go to McDonald's. Can you get me the wrap with the mayo that thanks very much?
And a vanilla shake.
And she's going, I can't believe it. Oprah's coming on. And honestly, when we pulled up, the Uber driver goes, I've been driving for 5 years. Who are you two? And I'm going, sorry? He's going, who are you? He said, I've had the most enjoyable, and because we were in the McDonald's line for about, 15 minutes, something's delayed, and I'm going, my head. But he just went, I can't stop laughing.
And then he said,
and I said, that's just us. And sometimes we're shocked by people because we can't help being us. So he took photos of us. I'm going, like that.
And I'm going, yay! I'm elated. She's pulling her hair out.
God, my head. And then he went, what do you do? And I said, we have a podcast. So he's downloading on YouTube, whatever. And he went, and then he was opening doors and trying to get us into the hotel. Anyhow. Just 24 hours with Nicola and Di. We have the most amazing guests.
We certainly do. So
speaking of laughter,
so from friendship, there's a bit of there with the Mykonos with the Greek, sort of rolling in there.
I like that.
Exactly.
Good continuity,
I think so. I've got to look at it flowing in. But everybody, we are absolutely thrilled to have Mary Coustas here at our back fence, or should we say Effie Stephanides, WOG megastar, who's a cultural icon since WOG's out of work and Acropolis now, ballsy and a bit up herself. Mary is a comedian, a performer on screen, stage and in theatre, author and a Logie Award winner for most popular comedy personality.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Married to George, and certainly
George.
A woman of incredible determination. After 23 IVF attempts, she welcomed her daughter Jamie at the age of 49. Now with her brilliant new book, Menopause, which I'm going to say I laughed it, highly recommend. She's speaking up about how she was hit by menopause and what it really means, and it's really so helpful for us. So, Mary, welcome to the back fence.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited because I'm a big fan, as you would know from reading my book and knowing about me. I have my group of friends, which I call my Pussy Posse.
Oh, that's a cool name.
Yeah.
Pussy
and I wouldn't
Posse.
trade any of them for anything. We do have a token male in there, but primarily we're women. And yeah, friendship's everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you say friendships because in your book you say laughter is your oxygen.
Yeah.
Let's start growing. Let's start with growing up and sort of integrating and being a Greek Australian. Like, for example, my Greek girlfriends that I knew were the best fun. They were over the top. They were extroverted, and I used to love them. It was really funny. Mary just said, "Was that because they cooked great food?" I went, "Well, yeah, moussaka was my favourite."
Tiramisu?
But I think, I paint the picture for us, like integrating into Australian society with that overhang of having the Greek culture. What was that like?
Well, for me, it was great, but it just didn't seem to be that exciting for other people that couldn't understand the differences, so there was a cultural barrier. Not at the beginning of my life. I grew up in Collingwood, which was very working class and very multicultural.
That's in Melbourne, guys.
Yeah, that's a Melbourne suburb and a very famous one.
The Magpies is the footy team.
Big AFL team. So that was all exciting, and it was a misère plate of different cultures, and we're all working class, so economically we're on the same sort of level, right? So the only differences were the fact that we were different, but there are enough differences for the differences to be common as opposed to sort of alienating. So it was a really great dip into understanding the world from that point of view. And then my father, in his wisdom, was a little ahead of his time. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work for me socially. Decided that we needed to move from this working class suburb into the middle class, so we had a better chance professionally and in life by getting ourselves somewhere that was a bit more aspirational. And so then we moved to a very white middle-class suburb called Doncaster, which is in the east of Melbourne. And back then, it was a little bit rural. It's not anymore, but it was back then. And
you all like to grow something in the backyard.
Yeah, we did that. Or sometimes,
I love
the
that.
Greek
All the
mothers
veggie gardens.
would pick out the weeds that we would have as wild greens. That was a little embarrassing in the local park. Oh, God, no. But yeah, look, and it was not a move I was excited by, and certainly had good reason not to be excited by it when I arrived. And I was one of 2 or 3 in the whole school that looked ethnic. And that was not a badge of honour. That was like a target. It's like I had a target. Look, of course, there were some nice people. And so, I tried to befriend them. And I did that through my mother's incredible knack of cooking. And we were a very social family with, the people that we knew from, family friends that were Greek as well, so they'd always come over. But our neighbours were as Anglo as you could get. We had Ruby and Trevor on one side,
Right.
Don and Thelma across the road, and Myrtle and Albie on the other side.
Can't get more awesome. It's like the castle, really.
Yeah,
That's really
it
funny.
was.
That
And we
is
had
so
Jody
funny.
and Leah and Rhonda and Greg, and they were the kids. So we were the odd people out, and that's that wasn't that exciting because our neighbours were brilliant, but at school it was very, very tough.
So a bit of bullying.
A lot of bullying, and
How did you deal with that?
Well, I couldn't talk about it at home. My dad had a heart condition from when he was 33, so just before I was born, he had a heart attack. So I didn't want to add any pressure at home. I wanted to pretend everything was fine. And, there were academic considerations as well. I was a straight A student in Collingwood, but that didn't mean much in Doncaster, where they were a lot more educated. So my grades had dropped, my status had dropped, my optimism had dropped.
How old were you then, Mary?
I was 10 when we moved. So
Very impressionable.
yeah, and anyway, so that was very, very tough. But here's the good news.
Yeah, we love good news.
Yeah. I'm very good at taking hard things and turning them into something that is an asset to me and hopefully to society as well.
That's a great line.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think these things happen by accident. I think they're there to inform us and open our eyes, although I would have preferred to have been drunk on ignorance, but I was not.
I need to write all these lines down.
Yeah. And so it became what my career was built on in the end, by tackling race through comedy. I was lucky. I came from a very funny family. Greeks in general are funny. We were talking earlier about how they don't have the phone etiquette that other people have. They tend to hang up very quickly once they're done. They tend to keep it very brief. I think they must still think they're paying by the minute or something.
Is that it?
I don't know
I love it.
why, but they're quite blunt on the phone. Look, I was lucky that I was always noticing funny things, and I loved character. And I was surrounded by so many of them. Greeks are very theatrical. They're great storytellers. They're great community members. They're very generous with their food and their emotions and their homes. And so what was my biggest asset, which was my cultural background, which seemed to be my biggest liability socially for a while, became my greatest asset again.
Go figure about that one.
Yeah.
Just absorb that for a minute.
Yeah.
Talk about reframing, reflipping it, turning it around.
Well, you
all
have
those things
to.
you hear.
Otherwise, you swallow the bitter pill, and then life gets very small.
Because Australia back then, I think we were born in the same year. You're 64, girl.
Yeah.
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 Ooh, hate to get too
Yeah,
little over
baby.
high
Groovy
I
women.
Look, people
It
call
wasn't
me.
multicultural so
No.
much then, and thank goodness all that's changed.
Very
you know,
true.
like
And
the
thank God for the Italians and the Greeks, the culture and
I
the
know.
food they've brought
Yeah.
to our country. Thank
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
And the fun.
They're fun, and everything's loud, and everything's smelly in all good ways. I remember
Smashing
garlic
the
used to
plates,
be
isn't it? You know,
smashing
yes.
the plates,
I
only
love
when they're
that.
clay, not when they're china.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
But they'll be the first to dance on a table and the first to help. I'm very proud of that part of my culture, and that's a
should
big
be.
part of what I thought was my personality. I ended up discovering was a big part of the cultural heritage that I came with. And every time I go back to Greece, which is every year, I think, oh, that's not actually a me thing, it's a we thing. All Greeks are like that. Oh, that's interesting, So, anyway, it helps with performing. It's something that the Greeks invented along with many other things that they gave the world. And, theatre, tragedy, drama, comedy, and theatre itself was
God,
first
of
put out there
course.
by the
The
Greeks.
Greek theatres.
Yeah.
That's one of my
The
things.
amphitheatres that they built.
I haven't
So,
even included.
so with your journey, like you just was saying, with the growing up, and then your brother Con,
Yeah.
and did he? He's the first one
Great
that said to
name.
you that you had a mustache or something.
Yes, he did. Which
what
was,
happened?
Well, we've got to look at monobrow and moustache. We
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
have
he
to.
had the monobrow.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I didn't draw attention to it, but look, Greeks are hairy. I like to say that
Greeks are hairy. I love
they're,
it.
they're very
Hairy Mary.
hirsute.
Yeah,
That's
I love
right.
that.
And as Effie likes to say, when you're a Greek chick, it's Movember every month. You get very good at getting rid of the evidence. And I think I was like 10 or something, and I was always very hyper. And my brother was, much quieter and a reader and kept to himself. And then we're always butting heads. We're either the best of friends or butting heads. And one day in the middle of dinner with the family, he just looked over and went, "Ugh, you've got to mow." I was like, "What?" I thought I was pretty good at keeping an eye on
Only
things.
brothers,
they
I
would
know.
do that.
And I ran into the bathroom and I took my father's razor and I shaved it off.
I don't blame
and I
you.
showed him
Yeah.
with my 3-day growth. I was like, "Oh, that's a bit."
growth.
Nair.
Yeah, then I
Yes.
Then I found out
But did
about
that
Nair.
burn your
That was
skin?
a bleaching
It was
thing.
worth
and
it.
it
It was worth it.
Did that work? Did you
That
use
worked.
Nair?
Yeah, I
right.
used Nair because if you
Yeah.
bleached and you left it on too long,
Oh,
then it
no,
became
no
a
way.
peroxide mustache. It was still there.
And what about the monobrow? Did Mum or many of the relatives have the because I was actually married in Mykonos
You were,
in
true.
1986.
They all liked your
that was
husband
when
at
it
the
was
time,
small and
didn't they?
cute
They-
and yummy, and there was villages and
Yeah.
very special.
Yeah.
And hence my hat today.
your honour.
Greece is very dear in my heart. And I do remember meeting a lot of the grandmas with the monobrow.
Yeah.
And I used to go, wow, they don't break. Like, wow. I was fascinated by that.
Yeah.
So anyone in the family with the monobrow?
Look, there's
Besides your brother.
yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Con.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
having a go at you now.
Yeah, it's your turn now.
Yeah.
Look, I always like to think that the Greek grandmothers were the original feminists. You
Yes.
know, no hair removal, no bras, and no lack of balls.
love
Oh,
that.
no lack of balls.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, but look, they
It's a good
they
line.
run the show, the Greek women. Obviously, vanity isn't a huge part of what's important. I think it's changed now. I think the Greeks now really love, they're much more European and they're much more aesthetically conscious. But back then it was character was everything. and, you know, and having a good reputation as a family and achieving the goals that you wanted to achieve by being able to feed, you know, each other and plant good crops and go to church and be a good community member, all those basic things that are, you know, evergreen, I think. And
good things.
Yeah,
you know,
but
really
a character
good
was
things.
everything. And I still like to believe that's the truth.
Wow.
You know, I get very annoyed when, or, you know, just very exhausted by having to look at someone that's trying to tell me they're winning, you know, by everything about them. You know, I'm all for fashion and all of that, but, you know, the brashness of the lack of humility, the lack of sophistication, the lack of, you know, like the show-offs that, I mean, it's funny because I play a character that is based on that.
Megastar.
But that's why. That's
and
why.
I'm known for that. But there's a real earthiness and believability and
And a
unpretentiousness and heartfelt quality to that character, which constantly undermines the visual, which for those who don't know the character I play, I've been playing a character called Effie since the late 80s
Can you
and
do a
early
bit of
90s.
Effie for us? Do you
Well,
mind?
she talks like this, you know. She's very working class. Beauty is a curse, and I've got it. And you're very lucky you're not cursed, girls. But anyway, she's, you know, I
Give us a little
suppose
example. We're going to bring
we're
Effie
gonna
back
bring Beth-
because
yeah.
you're too good at it.
in international terms, she's a cross between Ali G and the nanny. Or even though
Yes, that's brilliant.
True, it
she
is
was born
brilliant.
before, you know, publicly out there before the nanny.
Yes.
But in every big city where there's a lot of migration, there are pockets. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be in New York. You could be in, you know, Canada or LA or certainly Melbourne. There are pockets of two accents that marry the accent of the country that you live in and the accent that you're hearing at home. Get married and have a baby and somehow end up with all the confidence and up yourselfness and this fantastic accent that appears that is a symbol of where you grew up. And it's used as a symbol of, you know, honour, I think. And that's certainly the case with Effie, but I see it in characters that we've seen, Latino characters and, you know, Italian characters in New York, and they've all got a particular accent that exposes where they came from, and they're pretty confident characters. And I love that. I love that they're out there using everything they can to sell themselves as, you know, valid and worthy according to their terms, not society's in general. Because we have this thing where we don't really value class enough. You know, we value token qualities, the handbag you're carrying or who you're with or the convertible car or you know, all of that is signalling that you're winning and that you want to be noticed. And that's all fine, but I find that exhausting if it is the only dimension that's put forward, you know.
I remember we interviewed a beautiful man, Philip Korn, CEO of Louis Vuitton for Oceania and also Northern America. And we interviewed him this year actually, and he actually said to us, he said, because I'm going, oh, we love Louis Vuitton and whatever. He went, you know what? Bernard Arnold, who privately owns it, and
used to be one of the wealthiest
billion
women
or
in the
trillion
world,
after so many noughts he's out there. But he said it's one of the commodities. He said no one needs it, and they're lining up 2 blocks around the corner. So it's classic to what you were just saying. There's no need for it, but they've got to have it.
Yeah.
And it's a remarkable thing about society that yearning for that. Yes, it's fashion, but some women have to have 10.
Yeah.
Because it's the latest, whatever.
Yeah.
But
and see, when one's not enough, it's that sort of unfulfilling thing.
Correct.
You know, whereas, you know, like the ultimate sort of thing that, as we kind of know, is like kind of within and the strength and inner determination within. And like, you know, I said at the introduction too that Mary has got, I think, more, you know, inner determination, I think, than most people. You know, and it sort of shows. And I love it from, you know, you do it in humour with your character of Effie, and let alone with
Can
your
we have more
personal
Effie?
one.
Yeah, you'll get plenty of
we'll
Effie.
go into that
Effie,
later. One more Effie.
please.
But how did you get into Effie? And tell us a bit with Effie and Wogs Out of Work and Acropolis
Okay.
Now. Because
What's
that's, you know,
Out of Work Up was my favourite.
Yeah.
It seriously was.
What happened was at the peak of my bullying and all of that. I was a big fan of the Brady Bunch, probably because my family couldn't have
Same.
been
Was it Marsha?
more
Marsha?
different.
Or-
Marsha, of course, Marsha. I always felt that those middle children had a few issues. So I remember thinking, where am I going to find my people? Because I had them, and I no longer have them now. So how will I find my tribe? And that's really important. I didn't really feel like I'd found them in my peer group. Yeah. I was a bit bitsy, and I still am. I like having boys, a boy group, and I love having several girl groups. Just, my work friends and my this friends and my that friends. But in the last, 30 years since becoming, a professional and traveling a lot, I have got my pussy posse, which that never changes. Occasionally we'll bring some fresh legs onto the field, but just to intimidate. But yeah, so I remember an episode of the Brady Bunch where Marsha joined the drama group.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to do what Marsha did.
Are you kidding me?
And I literally...
That was a driving force?
Yeah.
Love
And I
the
literally...
Brady Bunch. Where was
Year
Alice?
7. It was first year of high school, year 7, first year of middle school, I suppose, in American terms. And there was a sign that there was a musical, of which I am not musical in the least, and they were auditioning for people to and there was not a group of people hanging around this. Like, it was just me and one other kid, and I put my name down, and and then someone came into the classroom and said, can we grab Mary? We're auditioning, and took me into this room, and I faked it, and I got I got a gig in the chorus of, I think back then it was Can was the first one. So with the skirts and the tights and all of that. And I loved it. I felt like the minute I set foot on that stage that I'd finally found my home, and
Were
and
you
then
using the nair then?
I'd nared everything by then, And I was lucky enough that I had a great English teacher who said she loved my creative writing, and she said, you should continue with that. You've got a real talent.
So positive reinforcement.
You just need
is-
one,
Be a
don't you?
teacher often too.
And so that and my drama teacher was enough to really whip me up into this frenzy of contentment and capacity. And I also went to school with the Seberanos, and Kate Seberano being one of our best singers, and her brother Phil. And
talented.
so we were in the musicals together, and I found that finding a group of people that shared a common passion was a great way to start building like really fantastic friendships for me. And so I fell into that world. I did every musical. I'm sure I mimed 90% of the time because they cut to when I'm preserving my voice for the acting moments and trying to spare the audience of this hideous voice that's wrecking everything. And then I decided that I wanted to be an actress full time, but I knew no one in my social group and my family group that pretty much was doing anything creative, let alone acting. And
They're growing crops out the back. That's
so the industry, I couldn't see anyone on television that looked like me either.
Another trailblazer.
It was
so
like,
that's
well,
fascinating.
where am I? Where am I?
That either pulls you back or propels you forward.
Well, for me, it sort of created a bit of a delay. I just thought, I don't want to deal with the reality of that, which I do often. We'll talk about that with IVF when they show you the chart, and you're at the lowest point in it. Your chances of I'm not very good at taking in negative information and thinking that that's going to help in any way. So I'm very good at barricading that in my mind and think, I'll find a way. I'll find my own way. So I went to drama school, I went to university, and I studied performing arts, journalism, anthropology, psychology, all the things I would use all the time. And graduated with high distinctions. I played animals and children and men and, all the hard stuff I loved. And then I started waitressing because that's part of the apprenticeship of being an actress.
Yes.
And I, by accident, served Nick Giannopoulos.
See, I didn't know that.
This is crazy.
I didn't know this.
I worked in a really bad place that I'm sure was doing more than just serving coffee, if you know what I'm saying. It was a bit slim shady.
Few people out the back.
Yeah, a lot of people taking the stairs, going upstairs for what reason, I don't know, looking very satiated when they came back
They grew
down.
some grapes. They put them in bags
That's right.
to sell.
Anyway, so, and then it was a Saturday night, and I just so happened to serve someone who thought that they knew me. And I didn't know them. Well, I thought I didn't. And it was Nick. And for those listeners, we went on to create many seminal pieces of work with Wogs Out of Work and Acropolis Now, etc. And he said, I know you. You look familiar to me. And I was like, yeah, I doubt it. And then he said, where did you grow up? And we found out we went to the same primary school, the same Greek school. And we both had just graduated from acting schools, opposing ones, but nevertheless.
God, that was universal.
That was meant to be, wasn't it?
It was crazy.
Yeah, love it.
And then he said, do you...
Sliding doors.
Yeah,
It was.
Look what they created.
And then he said, do you have an agent? Do you do? And I'm like, agent? What are they? Do you have any 8x10s? I'm like, is that wood? Is that a piece of wood? And so he really put me on my path in terms of, looking at acting as a business I was entering. I knew I could act and I knew I could write, but I didn't really know the business side of things. So he would come in and I'd shout him a coffee, and he would tell me, who the casting people were, and he would tell me about auditions that were coming up. So he and I auditioned for a theatre job, and I got it over him. And so then he went and began putting together Wogs Out of Work. Because he couldn't get a job, even though he was really gifted as an actor, and great with comedy and great character actor, and so I got the job. But because we'd had such great chemistry in the audition, he said, "I want you to join Wogs Out of Work." So when I finished that job, I joined Wogs Out of Work, and I just said, if I join, I want to write my own monologues. I want to create characters. Now I'll take you one step back. My poor parents, which were not poor in any other way other than naive to how pretentious drama school can be, had arrived at the end of my third year graduation. They came to my graduation performance piece, where they sat on Hessian sacks next to braless and deodorantless people and watched what was science. You couldn't get science to explain what they just witnessed. And it was me doing a monologue and doing crazy erratic things, like rolling around the ground and coming up and doing like jumps and startling sort of, gestures and yelling out things like anger, shame, crazy
Mum and Dad
stuff
would have
like
loved
that.
that.
And my
Very
dad,
enjoyable.
afterwards, I watched him. Yeah,
they
and
both
he
needed
was
a drink after that one.
Exactly.
Bloody
Uzo.
hell! I was going to say Uzo.
Yeah, my dad was so intelligent and he couldn't for the life of him work out what he'd just seen. And he was rubbing his forehead. Do you remember Columbo?
Yes.
How that detective, before, when something didn't make sense, he would, in his trench coat, rub his forehead and try to understand how this crime, which is what my performance was, could have happened. And he said to me, "What was that?" And he said,
"Darling, you're amazing on stage."
Exactly.
What was that?
Yeah.
To love it.
And he said, "No one needs to see that ever."
Oh, no.
And he was right.
So basically, the confidence factor.
No, basically
was
he
like,
said,
"Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Beauty."
He believed in me so much, and he did not believe in that. And he
Wow.
said, "That's not entertainment. Why don't you write stories about you or us or the world that you know? Why don't you do that?" And that was another moment.
Turning point.
In the words of
Was-
your new bestie,
yes.
Oprah, that was my aha moment where I thought, who am I trying to entertain? Who in their right mind would pay money to see what I just did? No one.
Wow, it took a dad to make you see
And why
that.
am I trying to impress people that, firstly, I don't know, and secondly, why aren't I trying to entertain the people that matter to me most?
Oh,
And so why wouldn't I want to do that for my family and people that I grew up with? And so that set me down a road of finding characters in my community that I could create as heroes. And that's where Effie was born.
Oh, you know what?
Give us a bit more
Bravo to
Effie.
the-
Can you do a little? Please do a little bit
Well,
more.
let's have
Effie.
a conversation. What do
All
you want
right,
to talk
let's
about?
do that.
So what happened in Mykonos? Did you marry a gay guy? Is that why you were there?
No, but when we're walking through Mykonos, a lot of the gay guys were grabbing my husband at the time, literally
And he had the
grabbing
big
him. I'm
mo,
going,
didn't
he?
hey,
Oh, he had the
I'm in
mo.
a wedding dress.
Yes.
Like, get with the program.
He didn't look like with that big mo a member
He
of,
did have a big, huge
you
mo.
know,
It
the
was
village
80s.
people.
Yes.
Well, the village people were
Tom
there.
Selleck.
A bit of Tom Selleck.
Yeah, a bit Selleck. Oh my God! And you blonde, I bet you. Did you have like something sexy on
yeah,
as a
very
wedding dress
Sexy.
with
I
a
had all the-
G-string out the back or anything? How many people were at the wedding?
Oh, this is
Four.
Oh,
4.
obviously a lot of
But
people
I
didn't
had,
approve.
But no, I
funny.
honestly
Before
no.
Di had friends.
It was. I said no one could come because it was going to cost us. But having said that, it was all the villagers in Mykonos came with violins and flowers
Who
and
was your best
14
man
children.
too, Di?
Everyone had a
Was it-
moustache everywhere, like everywhere. There was moustaches, and I'm like, oh my god.
Wasn't the best man the person you just met as well?
Yeah,
You got
well, no,
him
he
to-
was a
friends,
friend.
yes,
He was
yeah.
a Greek friend that was
Yeah,
our best man.
awesome.
So yeah,
Well, there
Effie.
you go. Well, congratulations. I'm sorry it didn't work out. How many years were you married?
36.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And do you talk or not?
We do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Do you have children?
We do.
Yeah.
And 3 grandchildren.
And did he move on?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him.
Right. On a regular 3 times a week he moved on. No, I don't know. I'm just making it up.
We're
But
not
anyway,
into
he's lost, right? Anyway,
I love
enough
you,
of that.
Effie. I love
Enough of that.
And Effie, I love your high hair too. The high hair you must have teased for 2 months to get it that high.
It was well trained, put it that way.
Yeah, but you know what? Being that character, and I love the whole sort of like backstory of it. And I do think part of the success of it, apart from being so talented and bloody funny, but was really that you were speaking and standing up for so many people, like, you know, from the Greek community, from other people who might have felt sort of like left out. And you know, sort of saying even Effie was a bit of a feminist herself.
Totally. I mean, I think we spoke for a lot of marginalised people. A lot of people that felt like they weren't being represented. Now, you don't have to look at the same thing in order to connect with something. There is an essence in everything we either connect to or we don't. And it set off like a wildfire. Like it was a tiny little show that started at a 150-seater, that then moved to a 450-seater, a 900, a 1,500, that ran for 3 years and toured, multiple companies toured at the same time, and grossed in those days, and we're talking about the 80s, $11 million at the box office.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
that birthed the sitcom Acropolis Now. So obviously, and there was no social media, so it was all word of mouth, and it was crazy. We did the Enmore for like 6 months, 8 shows a week.
Did you see it?
Oh,
you would
yes,
have seen
yes,
it in
yeah, Melbourne.
Yeah. It was a phenomenon.
Oh, absolutely. You know, sort of forevermore. How was the Logies for you? Did you actually dress up as
I
Effie?
did. I went as myself, and then I'd go backstage and get ready and come out. Look, the Logies were always a lot of fun. People love going to the Logies so they can drink and hang out at the bar. Like, you know, it's terrible because they cut back to a shot, and half the tables in those days were all empty because everyone was out at the bar. So I remember the year
Good
that
cameraman.
Isn't it funny?
the year that I won the Logie, I was doing
brilliant.
a
Yeah.
two-hander with Bert Newton, who's a huge legend.
Oh,
And
yes.
they were out of control. Whoever was still in the room was so out of control. And I said to Bert before we went on, I said, oh my God, they're really, you know, raucous. And I had Effie in this big outfit, and, you know, she was feeling really good. You know, Mary had
winner.
won the Logie, but it was really due to her.
Yeah, love it.
So I just thought I've got to do something to force their attention onto the stage.
Love it.
So I did a pratfall when I came out, and deliberately, of course, Bert knew,
Brilliant.
but
Yeah,
he
of
was
course.
such a ham. He went with
Yes,
it,
I
and it
love it.
forced the audience to go, "Oh God, something just happened,"
Oh,
and they
brilliant.
just
all
went
came
silent.
out of the bar.
Oh, they went
And there I
silent.
was,
Wow,
you know,
well
spread out
done.
with my big hair and my big frock, and then we're able to do, you know, the two-hander, and it was great fun. And it was, look, the Logies are so much fun.
Yeah.
You know, the remarkable thing from comedy and laughter, and look, you know, there's a huge story beyond that. And as Nicola mentioned in the intro, 23 attempts at IVF to have a child. And of course, the beautiful story is at 49, you do have your gorgeous daughter. Tell us about that journey. Like, I mean, I was trying to begin to imagine, I couldn't. I just couldn't.
Okay, let me just start from when I found out because I had blocked tubes. And I went to have a laparoscopy. We were trying to get pregnant. And, they say you try for 6 months, and if it's 6 months it hasn't happened, then you go and get everything looked at. So that's exactly what happened. And we'd just gotten married in January, and I think I found out in February, at the end of February, that I couldn't have children naturally. And so I had
you were married in
January that year.
And you found out in the
6 weeks later.
Wow, that's
amazing. That was tough. That was really, really tough.
Oh, my God,
yeah.
bang.
I think that was the first time I thought, am I depressed? Like it was the first time that it was not something that had happened outside of me, but something that had happened to me. And it was something that I've had this happen a lot. When you hear information, you're just not expecting ever to hear. So I had the laparoscopy, and the doctor was going to come in, but he was running late. So I said to the nurse, assuming it was all fine, I might go, and then the doctor can call me. She said, no, he wanted me to ask you to wait. At that point, I knew the news wasn't going to be good. So he came in and he said, look, your fallopian tubes are blocked, and they're blocked at the finest point, so it's not like we can operate and open them up. It's at the most delicate point. So the only way for you to become a mum is through IVF. So I think I probably cried.
How old are you then?
At this point, I think I'm 39 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was already pushing it, egg-wise,
thinking that.
egg quality-wise. But now I've got this big problem. So for weeks I just howled every day, and it was like, oh, okay. And suddenly I'm getting married now to IVF. First George and now IVF. I'm jumping into bed with IVF. And so I kept thinking, well, how can I put this in my mind so it's acceptable for me? So I thought, the tunnel's blocked, so I have to go over the Harbour Bridge. So I'm like, okay.
Wow. Double goosebumps.
So I'll get there. I've just got to go the other way, right? I've got to find another way. Same with my performance. When I went to get an agent, when Nick told me I should get an agent, and I walked in to see the agent and had my 8x10s done, and she said, you're limited. And I was like, oh, limited? What does that mean? And she's like, there's just not going to be a lot of work for someone like you. And I just thought, but I can play children and dogs and men, and what the hell, oh God, that's not what I found out after 3 years of studying acting. And then I left, and I was driving, and then I looked down and saw the 8x10, and then looked at myself in the rear vision mirror and thought, oh, she means my face. She doesn't mean my talent. She means my face is going to stop me from, the way I look, what I represent is going to stop me. And I thought, okay. And I put the 8x10 away, and I thought, I don't need an agent. I'll find another way. So I kept going, I'll find another way.
So the Harbour Bridge.
So now the Harbour Bridge is the only way for me. So, so I had a miscarriage on my third attempt. Most people can't get through one. You do one, you're filling your body with all these hormones. The egg retrieval is really uncomfortable. You have to go under general anaesthetic. You're hoping you're going to be able to cultivate healthy eggs and all of that. And so finally on my third attempt, I found out I was pregnant. Great. And then the way people give you information, they don't understand the power of words and tone and all of those things. I went in to have my 7-week scan, and the woman that was doing the ultrasound maybe had been a butcher in her last life. I don't know, but her subtlety was non-existent. And she went, oh, that doesn't seem right. Oh, no, it should be reading at this, and it should be reading at 7 weeks, and it's only saying 5.5. Oh, that could be a problem. And I was like, what? This is where you start to go into this out-of-body experience and go, firstly, why would someone say it like that? Secondly, what is she, now I've got to come to terms with the fact that there's a problem. So I get sent home, and I speak to my obstetrician, and we've got to go back in a week to see whether this growth is going to be propelled by some sort of miracle. But the news is not good. So I have a miscarriage. So it doesn't continue to grow. It's gone, right? So then I have a curette and all of that. And I remember thinking, it doesn't get worse than this. Well, it did. Because that was at attempt number 3. Then I did 15 attempts in Australia. And then I had a great IVF. I've changed doctors because sometimes you feel like you know how we don't know anything about a car and how a car works, and we're at the mercy of a mechanic who understands how a car works? I felt like the same when it came to IVF. I just felt like I was always in the hands of an expert, that I was waiting to enlighten me with something new every time. She'd say, after each failed attempt, and I went with a female doctor, she would come in and she'd say, we should meet, and we'd meet, and she'd say exactly the same thing, we should try again. And my husband, who was sort of able to have some objectivity, he'd go, but what are we going to do different? Like, how are we going to, up our chances? Oh, no, we'll just try again. And so then I switched doctors, and I went to this other doctor who was very good at looking at natural killer cells. So I'm very lucky that I have a lot of natural killer cells, which means that my immunity is really strong. But your immunity wants to reject anything foreign, which is the sperm of somebody else in your system. So maybe that had something to do with the fact that I wasn't falling pregnant. So then they put you on steroids to suppress your immunity with the hope that your body will accept this embryo and that you move forward. Well, after 15 attempts and no luck, my doctor said, I can't watch you do this anymore. So we need to do something new. And then he suggested I speak to these other doctors about going overseas and trying to get pregnant overseas. And I did that, and that took me to Greece.
How's the irony in that?
Yes, back home.
Yeah.
Like the Odyssey, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Greeks are sensational at IVF.
They're world leaders.
They love to breed. And the doctor that I found there had been a Greek Australian, studied at Monash with the IVF pioneers, and then opened his own clinic there, and he produces 600 babies a month. Separate to that, he also happens to have 8 children of his own. So he's very pro-children, none with IVF. So I went to him, and on my second attempt in Greece, I fell pregnant. This is where it starts to get very, very difficult, because I am elated now. I am pregnant, and guess what? I'm abundantly pregnant. I'm pregnant with twins. So,
how old are you now, Mary?
At this point, I think I'm 46 or 47.
Wow.
So I am pregnant with twins. Both in the one pregnancy, the whole family. I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah. So that's at my 7-week scan. And then 2 weeks later, I'm not very good at these scans, obviously, because they often deliver information which is super challenging and traumatic. My doctor, now back in Australia, not my Greek doctor, my doctor here, suddenly looked very ashen. And I'm like, what's up with that? And I'm lying there, and he turns to me and he says, one of the eggs has split into 2. You are actually pregnant with triplets. What? But here's the bad news. The bad news is that they're identical, and they're feeding off each other. So there's this thing called twin-to-twin transfusion, which means that one can sabotage the other. One grows too fast and one doesn't grow fast enough. Plus, I've got a single one that's there as well. So I am pregnant with triplets. I have never heard anyone I know say this. And for a moment, I'm thinking I'm Rocky.
Yeah.
Like, for a moment, I'm like,
That's it, Rocky. I know.
Check out my body. Yeah. Look at what it can do. Yeah. Look at what it couldn't do. And I'm running in my mind up those steps.
I love your mind power, Mary.
Yes. And then I have to deal with the reality of what he's suggesting. And what he was suggesting, and what was backed up by 5 other expert doctors, was that I needed to reduce the twins in order to save the singleton, that the twins were in trouble, and instead of risking losing all 3 with a very early pregnancy, that's if the other 2 survive, that I should reduce, which is the politically correct word for saying abort, the twins in order to save one of them. So I had to do that.
Poor
which was another chapter.
Anyway.
What's the next chapter after this one? My God.
Well, if you don't think that's bad enough, I had to do it twice. I had to do it one day, and then I had to go back the next day to check, and it hadn't been done. So I had to go through the same
sequence. I'm wanting to hug you right now.
Anyway.
I'm funny.
So that was the antithesis of the dream, and horror. Horror. And, of course, I couldn't cry because I had to stay still. And anyway, so then we think we're safe. We find out we're having a girl. We're ecstatic. We wanted a girl. I wanted a girl. Name her after my father, who had now died many decades earlier. So I named her Stevie. And then on week 21, halfway through the pregnancy, my waters break. And I don't know what's happened because I haven't gone to any pregnancy classes. All I know is that there is a film of wetness all over me. And I tell my mother, because my husband's overseas at this point, I tell my mother, and my mother knows what that means because she's had children. So we rush to the hospital, and my obstetrician, who is my version of God, comes in. And he says, you've lost 90% of your amniotic fluid. Stevie's only got 10% fluid left. But we're going to keep you in here and we're going to monitor you and we're going to hope we're still going to get there. Well, that was horrific because I was put in a maternity ward.
Oh, dear.
For those 2 weeks. So for 2 weeks, I'm watching bunches of flowers and babies and happiness and, and I'm sitting there. And experts are coming in every single day and telling me what I would inherit if I was to go into labour on that day, etc. My husband's, of course, flown back immediately. And on Mother's Day, my husband brings in our dog and I go downstairs and I see my dog. It was everything. And I walk upstairs and I'm like, first time in my life I was ever negative. I just thought, no, this is not good. Today's the day. Today is the day. I know it's going to happen. History is going to be written for my family today.
No, it's just,
and then George leaves, and my besties come over, and we have a picnic on my bed, like we did all the time.
So many goosebumps that I'm leaving my body right now.
And they couldn't lift me with a crane. I was that low. I was just like, that's your instinct telling you, right? Yeah, you are hearing it loud and clear.
Yeah. Of course.
And at 5 p.m., I start feeling a clenching.
Right.
And I'm like,
intuition.
George arrives. We start timing it. I've gone into labour. We call the midwife in. She calls my grief counsellor, who was with me every day during that period. She calls my obstetrician, my God. And we get taken into the birthing suite, and I hear the news of she's alive now, but she won't make it out of the birth canal alive. So then I give birth to my beautiful daughter,
Incredible.
who comes out
Perfect.
lifeless, perfect and lifeless.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, wow, okay, how did we get here? It was just bigger than any story I'd ever heard from anyone that I'd heard of. Like a lot of my friends had been mothers, and I'm a social person. I love stories. I will them out of people, and I'd never heard a story like mine. And I was like, wow. And then I almost died trying to remove the placenta, and I had to have 2 or 3 blood transfusions, and that was a whole other thing. And that was, I'd left my home. We'd set up the room. The local community knew I was pregnant. When everyone knew I was pregnant, I was going home.
And you're mid-40s as well, so,
Yeah.
The chances are it is
Yeah.
even that sort of against you as
So
well.
what pregnancy are we up to? How many are we now?
Where
through
that was
IVF?
17.
Okay, we're
Okay.
17.
So then I'm
17.
writing the whole time.
Yes,
I'm
so
writing
same.
in the hospital. I'm writing
the
emails. I'm
process.
writing letters to God. And I'm not that religious, but you become religious
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
need an outside,
higher power.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And emails to my besties that were living overseas, and just journal entries, whatever.
Keep you sane.
And then my husband, as well as a couple of my besties, said, this is a book. Like, you've got to write this into a book, And I was like, oh, my God, how do I tell that story? But I did. And that book changed a lot of things. That was another change in a society sort of consciousness around a couple of taboos. One, it was... I asked my publicist at Allen and Unwin, I said, I don't want this to be put in a women's magazine because men lose children as well. I want this to be read by men. And so we got the front cover of The Good Weekend, and I said, I don't want to have to tell a journalist this story. I want it told by me, written by me. So we did a 5-page extract in The Good Weekend, and the letters to the editor had exceeded any other story ever published by them. So that was that.
So you've helped so many
Yes.
people.
On the Monday, 60
Cathartic,
Minutes.
really.
60 Minutes called on the Monday and said, we want to tell this story on television. And so they ended up they did 2 episodes on us. And the book was released. But by then, between writing the book and releasing the book, I'd gone back 6 more times to Greece.
Now, where was your inner determination from? Was it you're sort of saying it with the Rocky, but what, because really, you'd hit rock bottom so many times there. What was it that you could actually keep on going, Mary?
I just knew that if I could stay in it long enough, I would get the result. If I could somehow muster the strength, and not to say, like, we were hemorrhaging on every level, like psychologically, emotionally, financially. I couldn't work that much.
Let alone try to keep a relationship together. I mean, George has been a rock, no doubt.
And it was very hard for the both of us. And George had to go to America to do things, and I was in Greece on my own, and he would fly over. It was just crazy. But, and this is where the but is an important one, I was supported. I was loved. I had a sense of humour that really kicks in during the hard times more than anything. I was in the best hands internationally that I could put myself in. I had employed colonic irrigationists, like tarot card readers. There wasn't a single mystical, natural thing that I didn't have working in concert with science.
So still
to try,
which is good. Yeah.
Do you mind if I jump the gun here? Do you mind if we move? Because there's so much I want to get out of in this short amount of time. Can you take us? I'm getting emotional now. Can you take us to the moment when your daughter was born? How old were you?
49.
Can you tell us about that moment?
I'll tell you that I found out I was pregnant and I was in Athens on my own on April Fool's Day.
April Fool's Day. Of course.
And that day I jumped in a cab to go to the clinic to give blood to find out whether I was pregnant. Number 23, me and Michael Jordan. Love that number. And everything was in Technicolor. Everything. Everything I looked at, there was couples kissing and flowers being passed to someone. It was like an Impulse ad. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
I was like,
I
remember Impulse.
I do remember
the sun,
that.
everything, the lighting, everything was like I was in a film
You're very
clip.
intuitive, aren't you?
Very. Well, she had enough mystic people around her.
Yeah.
No, but that's remarkable.
My
truly.
mother, I'd retired. My mother, who's a huge player in all my stories because she's just so excellent at mothering without smothering.
Yes.
Heard of that one?
Right.
Anyway, I'd retired her after Stevie's death because it aged her 10 years overnight. So I was like, no, I can't bring her along for the ride anymore.
Yeah.
I'm on my own now.
Yeah.
George had to go between Sydney and America, and so I go to give blood, and I say to the people that took it at the clinic, you have to tell me immediately. You can't keep me waiting all day for the result because that kills you. Like that's so hard. And so I'm at a friend's, and a friend's invited her other friend who reads coffee cups. Well, that's the only reason you would drink Greek coffee.
Tea leaf, they want coffee cups. I love it.
Yeah, because Greek coffee is like mud.
Of course.
I like the Greek coffee.
I don't mind it
Good.
actually,
I
but I
love
do
it.
love the coffee
Turkish and Greek's my
cup
favourite.
reading.
Yeah.
And because I'm into the mystical, certainly at times where I need answers from somewhere. So she was reading my coffee cup, and my phone rang, and I knew it was the clinic. And I didn't want to tell them because I wanted the first people to find out to be George and my mum. So I went into the other room. I've got to take this, go into the room. And the woman who was telling me my results is a nurse. And she's got a speech impediment. And she's reeling off all this medical stuff to me in Greek. My Greek's excellent, but I cannot keep up with the lisping, the medical language, the numbers, the whole thing. So I said to her, please, Dimitra, her name is, which is my daughter's name in Greek. I didn't name her after her. And I said to her, please just tell me simply yes or no. Yes, she said, a big yes. Your numbers are very high, which is good.
You know how many times you've given me goosebumps in this interview?
Anyway, so I hang up.
Seriously.
I ring my husband. It's like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. It goes to voicemail. I'm like, well, I'm not leaving that voicemail message. I'll ring my mum. And I ring my mum. And my mum knows it's that day. She's been with me on so many of those days.
Beautiful
and she
mum.
answers the phone. Ma'am? Yes. Ma'am? Yes. Ma'am? 3 times. She loves repetition. And I said, yes. yes, yes. Because she knew it was April Fool's Day. She says, are you tricking me? I said, I'm not tricking you. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so that was, and from then on, it was not to say it was an easy pregnancy. I was still bleeding a lot in the first 3 months. And I don't care who tells you that blood is a good news thing.
No, I get it.
And they'll tell you half pregnancies result in some level of blood. But for me, blood has always been very bad news because of the prior experience that I'd had. And so I was very, very cautious. By now we're shooting the 60-minute story, and I cannot tell anyone because I'm 21, 22 weeks pregnant at this point.
Yes.
And I'm telling the story of Stevie.
difficult.
And I'm very, very protective of that story because there are many, many people that don't get the happy story.
It's almost like it was Stevie's spirit, you know.
And that was what
there,
I was honouring.
present.
And not only that, I was scared that I was going to reveal it, and then I would. So
I get it,
the shoot happened over a week or two, and now I'm like a bad actress that's got that's hiding my stomach behind a filing cabinet, behind an oversized bag, wearing baggy clothes, So trying to, and then on the very last day, after we shot everything we needed, I confessed that I was actually pregnant. And at that point, I think I was 21, 22 weeks pregnant.
And that's the most you'd ever been.
How wonderful.
How exciting.
And then the whole of Australia found out about there wasn't a single person that seemed to not know about my story.
This is so meant to be this pregnancy.
So many women that had struggled followed my footsteps. And read the book, and it became a Bible of sorts.
And the name of your book
is called All I Know.
All I Know.
Yeah, and it comes from the Socrates saying, "All I know is I know nothing."
Name.
How's that? All I know nothing.
Yeah, I think it really it's really good to stay open to knowing more. And if I had listened to some of that stuff and gone, no, there's got to be more. And I'll find another way every single time. And I never craved for, I didn't say I want to be a billionaire. I didn't say I want to be a supermodel. They were basic things that I wanted. I wanted to work in a profession I felt like I had some talent and skill in, which, the industry was telling me there was no place for me. I wanted to become a mother, which is the most common miracle in the world, isn't it? Most people are trying not to become mothers for a chunk of their lives.
True.
And yet those two things challenged me more than anything. And the acting bit was easy. Once I hit a stage, then it was I could just show what I did, and then we're off
So
and
I
running.
keep going to call it Effie. Mary, can you take us to the birth? And how was George? And was it in Greece or was that back here in Australia?
No, back here. And I was back in the hospital where I'd lost Stevie.
Yeah, right.
Oh, really?
So, and I was really worried about that triggering me on the day which I'd worked so hard to have this happen.
Were you pretty much?
It was a planned Caesar because of my history. Week 38, day 1.
Perfect.
So, and so my beautiful god doctor VJ Roach, he said to me one day when I was week 31, where I was not having a good week at all because I felt like that carrot was still a million miles away. It was still dangling far away, and that was really hard. And he said to me, not having a good day, and I said, no, I thought I'd been faking it really well up until then. And he said, you need to go and talk to someone. You've earned this, and I don't want any of what's happened before to affect what you deserve to have, the joy around what's
Gorgeous
happening now.
advice.
So he got me to see somebody, and that woman was fantastic. And she said, look, there are two ways to look at this. One is you're letting a fear fantasy influence you because it's something you're worried about. And that you need to talk yourself out of that. But this is not a fear fantasy. This is a reality. This is something you've survived. So let's not even get you to try talk yourself out of it. Let's go with option number 2, which is you're going to feel these feelings. They're going to come and they will go. And they'll be replaced by another feeling. So I'm going to give you the tools to trust that the feeling that you justifiably are feeling will be replaced by a better feeling. And let's work on that. So she gave me those tools and they were really valuable. And on the day that Jamie was due, I remember it was, again, a very beautiful day. And how about this? We went over the bridge because I asked to. I said, we went to North Shore Private, and I said, I don't want to take the tunnel. We are going over the bridge.
Oh, Mary.
So we go over the bridge.
Beautiful.
God.
We go to
Beautiful.
hospital.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I am as big as two houses, because us Greeks are big on the real estate. We love double fronted. And so I went into the hospital. We had a playlist. 60 Minutes were going to turn up but not be in the theatre during the birth. We were going to set up GoPros. It was all good. I've helped raise a child who's, at that point was in her early 20s, and she flew in from New York for this. My best friends were going to be... No, this is a girl called Natalie that our family have emotionally been grafted to
hundreds
since she was 10 months old.
Helping.
Love it.
And so, we go in, getting my vitals checked, everything's ready, put on the shower cap, got the blue gown on with the, the openings at the back, feeling really good. And I'm thinking, nothing has triggered me. Not the lift where I was bleeding profusely and blacked out with Stevie, not the same corridors. Everything is not triggering me. I'm happy to be here. I've earned this. This is great. Today's going to be a happy day.
Really?
And then a male nurse who's taking all my vitals says to me, I asked to be put on today. And I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, stop.
And then he said,
Stop.
I walked in your shoes.
Oh, my God.
He and his wife had a stillborn. And he said, I needed to see the happy part of the story to know it can exist.
Have you got goosebumps like me? I've had 30 different types of goosebumps.
So this is literally
look, Sam's very emotional.
blowing us all away.
Then I go in, we have a hug and a cry, and then I'm good. I'm switching channels. It's going to happen. She comes out to First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, Roberta Flack. That song
I saw your face. It's one of my favourite songs.
Yeah.
We do the skin on skin
Didn't
thing.
tell you she's a singer. Watch out. She'll steal the show.
She's placed on my chest, and we're wheeling down the corridor. 60 Minutes are there, shooting me coming out of the theatre. And who do I see? I see that nurse, that nurse. And he looks at me, and I look at him, and our eyes are full, and he just went like that, and that was that. And then I was literally stoned, I think, for the first 6 to 8 months. I was so high.
Yay.
Something about that bridge.
But it took a while to get there.
I don't know how we're going with time, Sam. Have we gone way over?
It doesn't matter.
We do have to mention Mary.
We do, but that's the story. You had to
It's
sort
beyond.
and thank you for sharing all that
It's
thing there,
beyond.
and with that male nurse as well. I love that. It's a real sort of thing in life, when sometimes we have suffering and we lose things, but to get joy, if you can't in yourself, but to get it through somebody else and naturally have that joy for them is sensational. And how old's Jamie now?
Jamie just turned 12.
Oh, yay.
And you're, if you don't mind me asking your age?
Okay,
Hey,
moving
we're the
on.
same
No,
age.
I'm
Come
joking.
on.
Oh, so you're 64. She's
61.
I'm not 64.
Sorry, I'm
That's what she
I'm
does
older
to
than
me
both
all the
of you.
time.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
I'm the older one here.
Sorry, Mary.
Excuse
She
me.
threw
No,
away-
I'm 61.
Do you know what
So you're
died?
61,
Yeah.
she's 12.
She threw a party because
How
I turned 60.
incredible. When you look at that age difference and you think of the journey.
Look, it was
it's
not
remarkable.
ideal. The age
Yeah.
difference, it wasn't something I ever, aspired to or anything. But then I think about how many young people are having children and they're in unhealthy circumstances or...
And we're living longer, and you look young and gorgeous.
Look,
and
we're
hey,
running
same
out of
age
time,
too, but
Mary, but I do want to mention both Nick and I really enjoyed this book called Menopause.
Yes.
And one of the main reasons menopause hit you so hard, because in your 40s you were going through fertility treatments in a quest to have your child with George. You had, the book is all about those stories.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take the listeners from this happy, joyous moment, but it was the consequences of all of those fertility treatments that compounded your menopause.
Yes.
And you pour that out, pause. You pour that out in the book.
Yeah, look, the book is funny
beautiful.
only because the
It
serious...
it's really
It is. I had a
funny.
giggle.
But
Yeah.
you got hit with it because
Yeah.
but just tell us a bit about that.
Well, I didn't think anything could be harder
No.
than IVF
No.
or losing a child.
Yeah,
But
hello.
it is It was harder for me because I didn't know what it was.
What happened to you? What were your symptoms?
My symptoms, look, the physical stuff I was accustomed to with IVF. So it wasn't the physical, it was the psychological. I felt so overwhelmed, so full of anxiety, so full of what I thought was grief. I thought I was having a heart attack like your bestie, Oprah.
Yeah, she did. Heart palpitations.
Yeah,
That's
I had
right.
those. And my dad had multiple, like he had infinite heart attacks. Even on the day he died, he had to have 2. So I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die, you know, because my heart is racing. What has happened to me? And they don't call it the change for nothing. So again, I started writing about it, but I decided once I came to the conclusion that it must be menopause because my doctors weren't coming to that conclusion.
How frustrating.
Then I decided to write this book to put really good practical information around a lot of stories and comedy. As you know, I had an accidental orgasm at 8, thought I was pregnant, but that's another story. I suppose
you talk about that in the book. It is
I suppose
funny.
the point I wanted to make with this book was the body is a mystery. And we live in this mysterious thing, and especially for women where we go through so much, you know, and we're able to produce such incredible results through this body. But there were times where I was completely caught off guard, and I've named 2 of them, but menopause was the ugly highlight, the anticlimax of my physical story.
And, you know, Mary, too, you know, also, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, you know, you try and get sort of help and sort of think what's the matter with me, whatever. And the mainstream doctor just sort of thinks, you know, that you go on antidepressants, whatever.
Yeah.
We weren't sort of educated. The doctors weren't educated.
They
And
weren't.
thank goodness people like you and there's Dr. Ginny and there's so many others now coming out with books and it's being aware of it. Yeah. But, you
Thank
know,
God.
you weren't, so, you know, for you, you're told that.
So this time, I can't get people pregnant. So the IVF thing was about me being super honest about what I went through and paving those roads down for other people that might not have known that they're going overseas or finding another way was possible. But I can do something about the whole menopause thing. So I wrote the book as a way of liberating and informing women and men because it affects men because they're working with women, they're married to them, that could be their daughter, it could be their sister, their best friend.
Absolutely.
So I'm very pro speaking to, you know, everyone when I write. But secondly, I wanted to create a menopause business full of doctors that knew about menopause. And so the book Mary Paused, Birthed Unpause, which is a telehealth platform that I've put together with some other co-founders. And we've
Giving
got
back
great
after all that.
doctors that are experts in menopause, but they're GPs as well. And I wanted to create a space for your forever doctor. You know how we're so monogamous to our hairdressers?
Yes, that's true.
You know, my friend
So
said
true,
the other day
though,
on a walk,
isn't it?
I can't believe my hairdresser moved to Gaimea. Now I have to go there. Well, I wanted a GP
Gaimea.
that knows
The Shire.
everything exactly about what's happening to you, that knows your body better than anyone, that can take care of you so that not only do you get through menopause easier, but also have a fabulous sort of, you know, well-being through the aging
is it,
process.
Mary, through, is it telehealth? Is
Yes.
that from phone? Do you ring them
Video.
up or video?
Yeah.
That's so good,
so
isn't it? So you can help
overdue.
people in the country.
Well, that was the
people-
thing. 10% of women are an hour away from a GP.
Wow.
And that is a GP that probably doesn't know anything
Well, I was
about
going to say
menopause.
that sometimes can backfire.
And,
Yeah.
and,
so
and
how
when-
is it to contact?
You just jump on unpause.com.au. You do your
PAUSE, unpause.
pause
yeah.
as in
Like with-
unpause the
yeah,
menopause.
as in the book.
Yeah.
And you go out, you jump on, there's a free guide that it's a straight talking guide that you can download that'll tell you everything you need to know. Then you book a consult and it is 45 minutes long.
Oh,
you have filled
brilliant.
out everything about yourself,
Brilliant.
how you want to age, what your objectives
Good
are,
on
what
you.
your history is, all of that. So that doctor is ready to talk to you from the minute that
Love it.
consultation. They are speaking to the
So
issues
you're giving
and solving
back
them.
again
Well done.
and helping so many people there, Mary. You know, really like sort of thank you for that because, you know, and also I noticed, I love that book. I read it from the start, you know, all the way through. And then is HRT now called
Yes,
HT.
I
HT.
didn't understand that.
It's
the same
That
change.
threw me.
I know.
Yes,
I don't know.
But it's
I
good
don't
to
know why
know
they
that
changed
there's
it.
another thing too. It's like, what's MHT,
Yeah.
whatever, HRT,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's the new.
But it's the new. Well,
Ah,
that's
I
good to
didn't know
know
that.
as
Yeah,
well.
it's the same thing.
But we're the same age, and
Yeah.
I want to sort of say for people too, because
Yeah.
we were in that group as well that we weren't sort of told by the doctors about sort of like menopause, and it was only really when I had a hip operation because I didn't think I really had any signs or symptoms.
Yeah.
When they go look under the hood,
Yeah.
and it was my
Hello.
bone density.
Yeah.
So now, and I remember actually saying to Dr. Ginny,
Yeah.
am I too old to go on this? And
Yeah.
she's saying no.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, it's been the best thing for me as well.
Me
And
too.
strength
Yes.
training,
And also,
mood, mind,
I
everything.
think that when you describe
It's
in
so
the book,
good.
one day your hormones will riot, your sleep will evaporate, your emotions will burst into flames, your vagina might start feeling like the Sahara Desert. I thought that was just perfect. It was
Perfect.
it was so pertinent. It was like straight to the core.
Yeah.
And you're talking about HRT, bingo.
Yeah, as I like to say
There's
in
no
the
fear
book,
around it
Yeah.
now, guys.
I like
Yes.
my wine dry, not
Yeah.
my vagina.
Yeah.
So we're going to fix all of that. We're going to make
I think
women
that's a great way to
feel.
Oh, that is so
Seriously?
good. Well,
I like my wine
I reckon a
dry
bit of
too.
cheers to that. Don't
Yeah,
you?
cheers
So
to
we
that.
like it, wine
Cheers,
dry
baby.
too. We're in agreement with all of that,
Ladies,
Mary.
I can't thank you enough.
Oh, no, absolutely.
You're
Well, we've got
gorgeous.
some of our signature questions. Honestly, we could talk to you
I could.
forever.
Seriously.
But just quickly also, when you do
Yes.
one woman show, you
Yeah.
do so many things there, and I really want to see the next one. Is it Frigid?
Frigid to Feral is
tell us
Effie's
about
next show.
that.
Effie's going through Peri, only just starting.
She's going through
She's
the
a lot young.
Peri.
She's a lot younger than I am.
Of course she bloody
this.
is.
So yeah, well, I'm
Oh,
doing a show
Peri.
called Frigid to Feral, which starts at the end of
Frigid
February
to
and will
Feral.
tour throughout the country.
Great name.
We are going.
We
Yeah.
are 100%
And back
going.
fences, we'll
Yeah.
have the details
Yeah,
to that
we'll
as well.
promote
That
it.
seems
Absolutely.
hysterical.
And for anything you need to know about this book or me or tickets or anything, you go to maryandeffie.com.
We'll
or
put
you
that
go to
all in our show notes.
unpause.com.au for all your medical needs. And let's get this show on the road, ladies.
Yay.
Yeah,
Let's get our own
this-
shows on the
let's
road.
get
Well, let's get the Over the
Showtime.
Back Fence show on the road with our
you wanna
signature
start?
questions.
Ooh.
What makes you? It's
Oh.
like almost.
Do you know the
ridiculous.
answer?
What makes you happy?
Oh my God, what makes me happy? People. People make me happy.
Oh.
I love people. I love. Nothing makes me happier than being around good people. And I just want to laugh. I don't want to laugh on my own. That's a bit crazy,
I
isn't
agree.
it?
Yeah.
Well,
Like-
the Greeks
yeah.
think it's odd that people should laugh on their own. I mean, I do in the car sometimes, but just quietly. No one can see me.
Exactly.
No, I love a laugh. I love a good, a good meal. I love great people that can open my eyes and my heart and that I can learn and grow with. I love adventure. I love travel. I love working. I love my audiences. I love standing on a stage and just going blah, and the audience going, "Yeah, give me more of that."
Yeah, like we love that. We love that
Beautiful.
oversharing.
Next one.
Like with that too. But I'm just going to say, I love Mary. Like really.
Isn't there a movie?
Yeah, something
Something
about
about
Don't you love it
Mary.
with the hair
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that, which is so
Love
fun.
it.
Now, if
Cameron
you could
Diaz.
share a back fence with anybody
Wow.
on planet Earth, who would it be?
Did
and
you
why?
see that beautiful thing Goldie Hawn did with Diane Keaton? Diane Keaton and Goldie Hawn shared a back fence. You
Yes.
know that?
Yes.
And
She
Sarah
spoke.
Paulson got up and
Yes.
spoke at an
It's
event
brilliant.
last week about, and she read out all of Diane Keaton's texts and emails and voicemail
It was
messages.
brilliant.
And Goldie
It's on a
Hawn
feed.
shared a back fence with her best friend who was Diane Keaton. I would have
no one better.
multiple back fences. I'd live in a cul-de-sac where they both,
no one said that,
Yeah.
Mary.
So she's Greek, you know.
Yeah, I like that.
I would want
so cool.
side fence, back fence, no fence. My idea of bliss is a village type mentality where we're all close enough in proximity. I think one of the most tragic things of living in a great big exciting city is how far away we are from each other. To stop that spontaneity, or I just cook this, come over, or listen, I've opened a bottle of wine, come and have a drink, or dropping something, or my kid to be able to go, my kid, my best friends are her best friends too. She's got her own, but she's like, Mama, is it okay to invite your friends to this thing? Because they're my
We're a
besties
bit
too.
like that
We
too,
are,
with all
yeah.
ages.
So-
But life is
Yeah,
better shared,
it is.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think with longevity and connection, we sort of know that we really sort of try and
Got one more
encourage that.
question.
One more question, you shoot.
No.
Are you gonna
If you had the opportunity of meeting your 21-year-old self,
Yeah.
would you have any advice for her?
it's all going to work out.
Oh.
It'll work out. You'll get there.
Oh. Well, Mary Coustas, thank you. I think our fence is nearly blown over.
Yes.
Because really...
It's blowing over.
You've
Mary's,
really taken
Mary's
us,
in the house.
Yeah, Mary, it's just, you were such an
Just having a coffee
authentic...
now.
Yeah.
Well, like talk about a girlfriend
icy.
there. I absolutely just adore you,
Yeah, you're beautiful.
And everything that you
really
stand
are.
for, learning and spirit, and that's sort of like student for life, and you never give up attitude. A bit like we had, Ida Buttrose, never give up.
That was the main thing. that
I don't
came
like
through.
the other option. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
When I laugh a lot, it's because I prefer to delay the other option, which is the crying a lot.
Yes.
And I prefer to not give up because I don't want to settle for something that I could have, avoided. I want something better. And like I said, I'm not chasing something that isn't a common dream for most people, So
Well, your
Get it.
determination
Well done,
is
Mary.
great, and I know
Thank
you're
you.
helping so many people. So everyone, thank you
so
for
much.
listening.
Yes, guys.
Don't forget to rate and review. Don't
was a
forget
lot
to
in that today,
watch
my
this
God.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
And Mary said too, or Effie, that she likes to watch. You like to watch your
do.
podcasts as well. We certainly do, and we also like our ratings because it helps
do.
us
We
grow,
love the
and we're
ratings.
growing. With Oprah and Mary and
we're
Effie.
growing. We're growing like there's no
but
tomorrow.
Di has her own rating system.
Oh, I do. I don't know how that
Effie.
started.
Now come on.
Well, I'm sorry.
Out of stars, 5 stars.
It's
How
usually
many
5
does-
out of 5. She gets 23 out of 5.
Oh, you're beautiful,
23
Di.
out
I mean
of
it.
Honestly.
5, you
I
do.
mean that.
They
Thank you
should
for
put a
listening.
little
Back in your
bronze
ears instead,
statue of you in Mykonos.
That's great.
These days we run over by
Back in
cruise
your
ships.
ears next week. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye.